Good morning. It is great to see you here today. The story of the prodigal son is one of my favorite stories in the Bible. For those of us who have been around the church for a while, when we hear this story, we immediately think of God's grace or God's never ending love for each one of us. The challenge for the contemporary interpretation is to find that kernel of newness, that bit of the story that's different from what we've heard before, that cutting edge of growth that the Spirit is calling us to this morning. To do so, I want us to imagine today that we are the three different characters in this story. This is nothing new. Rembrandt painted a picture which vividly portrays the reactions of the father, son, and brother. However, what would this story mean if we put ourselves in a small community of Jesus' day? When Jesus told these stories, these parables, he invited his listeners to enter into them. I want to start by asking you to imagine that you are a son who one day goes to his father and asks for his inheritance. See the blood drain from your father's face. In the culture of the prodigal son, to ask your father for inheritance is to say you are sick of your family, you are fed up with close relationships, and you wish your family dead. Your father is absolutely shocked because there is no law or custom in the culture which entitles the son to share an inheritance while the father is still alive. Yet your father loves you so much that he agrees. Some of your ancestral land is put up for sale. The village negotiators are calling you childish and despicable behind your back. Normally, sale of such land takes months, if not years. However, the story tells us that in not many days the land is sold, probably at a lower price, to get the cash as fast as possible. The field is sold to a Gentile. If this happens, there is a ceremony called Ket Sat Sa, the cutting off. All of your relatives gather around and place parched corn nuts in an earthen jar. They break the jar before the village and announce that you are cut off from your inheritance. The only way you can be restored to your family is if the land is bought back. So, if you lose your inheritance, if you lose the money that you have gained from the sale, you are cut off from your village forever. So you leave, never thinking to return, and in a distant land you spend all your money. It is all gone. Then comes the famine. A famine happened on average every 10 years. No caring countries, no international aid or Red Cross. And so, in a famine, a person would turn to the only place they could, their family. But you have no family. You are a stranger in a strange land. You become hungry. You become very hungry. You could return home. You could return home to the shame before your father, to the shame of having to be fed by your brother, to the shame of Ket Sat Sa, of being cut off from the village. Instead, you do the unthinkable. The rabbis say, "Cursed are those who breed swine." You are cursed as you sell yourself to a pig breeder. It gets worse. Pigs eat pods. With a terrible feeling in your empty belly, you gaze at the pods, wishing you were a pig, wishing you could eat. You, a Jew, wanting to live like a pig. You realize how hungry you are. You have an idea. You could return to the village, somehow deal with the Ket Sat Sa. You could negotiate with your father. You could ask to be a hired hand. Not a son, not a slave, but a hired hand. A hired hand does not live at home. A hired hand does not join the family, not part of your family, always an outsider. So, hungry, selfish, and independent, you return, only to meet love. Now imagine being the father. Your son has wished you dead. In costly pain, you have given him freedom and let him go. For years you've waited, heartbroken. Your son has faced the shame and humiliation of ket sat sa, of being cut off. You know that if he ever returns, you must get there first to show him that the rules and the customs don't matter. That's how much you love him. You watch and wait, and one day, while your son is a long way off, you see him. You must reach him before the village does. You run. You run. Middle Eastern men don't run. Middle Eastern men wear long robes that reach to the ground. To run means hitching up your robe, exposing your legs. To run will bring you humiliation and shame. Yet you run. You run in full view of the village. You hug and you kiss your son. You have violated just about every relationship law between a father and a son there is. By rights, your son should be falling down and kissing your feet. This is love. You hug and kiss your son. Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Ha! In the face of your love, his prepared speech changes. He gives up his big plan to be hired on. He lets go of his ideas. He only has awareness of his sin, his sudden sadness at the breaking of relationship. As the father, you act such costly love. It's not the time for ket sat sa, a cutting off ceremony. You call and you ring for a party. You will kill the fatted prized calf. It will feed 200 guests. You have found your son. The village must meet your son. Your reconciliation will be public. Everyone must reach your son in your house, knowing of your forgiveness. Meeting God changes our relationships, not just with God, but with all people. Time to party, time to honor reconciliation and being found. Now imagine you are the elder brother. You were there. You heard your younger brother's request. You were still angry. You saw your father endure costly pain and rejection. You saw your father endure public humiliation. You saw your father give your brother freedom. You saw your brother sell the land. The law is quite clear. If a man assigned his goods to his son to be the son's after his death, his son cannot sell them, since they are still in the father's possession. Your brother broke the law. Your brother halved your family estate. Your identity is so entwined with the land. It's just as if your brother sold your identity, your birthright. And you were wrong. You should have intervened. You should have mediated. It was your role as the elder brother to do something, yet you failed. You know that everyone in the village points at you and says, "There's a family that fights. There is a family that is a total failure." In the field you work. You work hard day after day to make up for your mistakes. You work hard to prove the village wrong. You work hard to earn enough money to buy back the field, to restore your family's honor. One day, out there in the fields, you hear music, the flute, the pounding of the drum, a party, a loud, boisterous party. Puzzled, you approach. Rather than rush in, you stand outside. You ask someone what's going on. Reconciliation, costly reconciliation, you are told. Father, younger son, and village all sharing forgiveness and joy. After months and months, the pent-up anger boils up. Where is the justice? So you insult your father. You refuse to go in. You refuse to join the party. Now you are like your younger brother. You publicly insult your father. You see your father humiliate himself. In front of all his guests, he comes to you. How low will your father sink? What next? You cut him off before he can say anything. In your shame, in anger, the words come out of your mouth. For all these years, I have been working like a slave for you, and I never disobeyed your commandments. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has devoured your living with prostitutes, came back, you killed the fatted calf for him. To your anger, your father says, Beloved son, you are always with me, and what is mine is yours. And to celebrate and rejoice was necessary, for this your brother was dead, and he has come to life. He was lost and has been found. Jesus stops the story right there. There's no reconciliation. There is no resolution. The musicians wait. The guests watch. The servants are poised to serve more food and wine. What will happen next? What will the elder son say? What will the younger son do next? Jesus invited his hearers into the story as characters. Who are you this morning? We have seen the unexpected love of God. Will we act like the elder son and remain outside God's party? Will we be like the younger son, setting boundaries in our relationship with God? Or will we accept the kiss of God and join the party? Amen. I want to thank you for joining with me this morning. And until we meet again, I wish you God's richest blessings.